It's really nice. In some respects, it's a way of keeping in touch with Martha. It's a way of kind of keeping her in our hearts.
Get Radio Breakfast with Rich Smith.
The wonderful Helen Douglas House Comedy Gala that is happening on the 17th of February. We're catching up now with Ed Tolputt, who's had experience with Helen and Douglas House. Ed, good morning to you.
Hello. Hi, Rich.
Thanks so much for joining us this morning. Now, this is a wonderful gala that's going to be happening, a wonderful evening of comedy. But before we get on to that, just tell us your experience of kind of Helen Douglas House and kind of being with them.
Sure thing. So I was our first child was called Martha, and she was born in 2015 in May, almost 10 years ago, and during labour she was without oxygen for quite a significant amount of time. So when she was born, she was in a critical condition, and she was struggling to breathe without the ventilator, and her brain function was limited. So she was on life support. And my wife and I, Sophie, stayed in the hospital with her. And over the next few days, her condition gradually improved. She began to trigger her breaths without needing so much the ventilator, and her brain function increased. And so on day 4, the doctors said to us, look, I think it's probably time to remove the life support and to find out whether or not life is something that will be for Martha. And it was actually at that point that I said to the doctor, I said, what would then happen? And she said that were Martha to live, obviously she would remain in a critical condition, so she'd stay in the hospital. But were she to die, we might consider going with her to Helen and Douglas House to spend a few days with and coming to terms as a family in a calm and peaceful and fairly joyful place. And so that was the night before she died, and then on the 5th day they removed the life support, and after a few kind of valiant attempts at life, she did pass away in my wife's arms. So it was at that point that we went to Helen Douglas House. We were taken there in an ambulance with Martha, and we spent the next 4 days there. And in a sense, we were just there to celebrate her life, and to remember her as someone that we were proud of having been born, and to think of and to, in a sense, focus more on what she was, and less on the kind of trauma of what had happened in the hospital. And even though our experience of Helen Douglas House is quite a kind of niche experience, I think for obviously for many people, it's a place where they spend time with their children who are still, alive and precious in that way. For us, it was an absolutely invaluable opportunity just to kind of to be looked after and to remember Martha in a positive way.
No, just to mention, I've been fortunate enough to speak to a lot of parents and people who have gone through Helen and Douglas House, and every single time it amazes me that you come on a radio show like this, that you come and talk and you can and just speaking about it, it's an amazing credit to you and your family, Ed. So I just wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart. It blows me away every time, and I know all of our listeners and everything as well will be in exactly the same boat as well. So that, I just wanted to thank you for sharing that story as well. And in the rules of comedy, which seems like a complete this is something that's happening as well. We've got the wonderful event that's happening at the New Theatre on the 17th of February, which I believe you're gonna speak at as well, Ed.
I think so. Yeah, I think I'll talk for 4 or 5 minutes about Martha's life and death, and apologies in advance to whichever comedian wants to go on. I'm sure they'll be all right.
Oh dear. And just being part of this, obviously you went through Helen Douglas House, so you know the amazing and incredible work that they do, but obviously this is the extension of being able to keep the doors open, about providing the incredible service that they do and doing all the wonderful things that happen. So describe your kind of feeling about being part of it, because as I said to you, it's an incredibly an emotional and an incredible thing that you can talk about. And as I said, it blows me away that you can do it on radio so wonderfully and easily. But to be part of something like this comedy gala, how does that make you feel?
It's really nice. In some respects, it's a way of keeping in touch with Martha. It's a way of kind of keeping her in our hearts. Helen Douglas House is a really special place, and it continues to be for my family. We were just around the corner from Helen Douglas House. Martha has two elder siblings now, and for them, it's an important place that represents the sister that they never met. So for us, so absolutely, I kind of feel, as does Sophie, my wife, we just feel like our connection to Helen and Douglas House wasn't something that's started on the 22nd of May 2015 and ended 4 days later. It's about Martha's memory, and hopefully Martha's memory is a thing that will kind of bounce around forever. So it's a real privilege to be asked to speak about Helen Douglas House. A, because we're massively grateful, and B, because it's a chance to remember, continue to celebrate Martha.
Exactly that. Ed, thank you so much for joining us this morning and talking about that and shining a light on it. It's absolutely wonderful that you've been here and to talk about this. And I'm sure the event will be absolutely amazing on the 17th of February as well.